Good morning or evening. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Chess Dojo's weekend rapid tournaments. Just start in about 20 minutes. Let's see how the setup looks. Not classical chess. No, that info looks wrong. Turn on the title. The title's wrong too. Interesting. That's better. Let's get the info right. So today it's going to be rapid chess. Let's try turning on that view there. Very annoying. A lot of things not working with OBS lately. Okay, no way to select that. How nice. Seriously frustrating. There's no way to select the text and move it. I consider myself a calm and reasonable person. But OBS, you are driving me bonkers. Lost all control of OBS, and I might have to give up. Not on streaming, but on changing what the stream looks like in any way. Well, let's see if MooBot is working. Let's see if anything's working. There's some links to tournaments. Hey, Guyao. Hope you're doing well. Hi, Oscar. Hi, Tom. It looks okay, George, but I want to be able to change some things, and I can't change anything. I'm doing well. There we go. Now it's giving me some control again. Oh, and I can move it again. In full screen mode, it lets me move it. All right, for people on YouTube, I'm going to give another link over here. Let's see what that is again. It's clubs. Chess Dojo. Fair enough, Oscar. You played last week, which was really great. Yeah, just slash club. Okay, for people on YouTube, that chess.com/club/chessdojo is one way to find your way to the tournaments, and then you'll be able to see the links like that. No, it's going to be 15-minute games today, Paul. Today the time control is 15 plus 5, 1700 plus, 13 to 1700, or under 1300. The way arenas work, every time you play a game, it pauses the tournament for you, and you click when you're ready for another game, and then it'll pair you with the next available person, based on ratings and scores. You don't have to wait for other games to finish. You just wait on yourself. The arena lasts 3 hours. It starts in 15 minutes. Once it starts, I'll be doing live commentary on the games, rotating through the different sections. So whatever rating level you're at, we'll see some games around your level and comment on them and so forth. Go put up an announcement. All right, posted it up over there. So what should we talk about while we wait for the tournaments to start? Once the tournament starts, people always have 100 questions, like, do I think Aragaisi would win a match against Abdusattorov and stuff like that. So let's handle one or two of those questions before our games get started. And maybe I can pay attention to the games once the games are started. I feel like sometimes I answer too many questions during the games. Well, I mean too many questions that are not about the games. Of course, it's fine to ask. It's up to me to balance things out and make a good or great show out of it. Nice to have some extra stuff to chat about here and there. But of course, it's also important to comment on the games in between here and there. Did the previous World Champions meet the list of requirements? So across online, things have changed as far as what it takes to become world champion. So they did not necessarily all have everything on the list. For example, one of the things on my list now was that someone has to be in good physical shape to be world champion now, right? Maybe they don't need to be professional athlete level shape, but they've got to be in decent physical shape. And I don't think that was necessarily the case 100 years ago. Competitions weren't so grueling. I don't know if Mikhail Tal was in good shape when he was world champion. Hey, George Hornsby. I'm as surprised as most people, I think, by Jesse being so pessimistic about Hans even reaching the top 10. But he appears to genuinely be that pessimistic about Hans's chances of reaching the top 10. Yeah. I think Jesse I think all of us are very honest about what we think. That said, we might say something in the spur of the moment, and then when we reflect on it for an hour, then come to a different conclusion. I think Jesse seems to still believe that, despite, because we also talked about who's going to be top 10 next year, right? As well as as well as the episode specifically on Neiman. And Jesse seems to think it's crazy that Kostya and I think that Hans could be number 10, which to me seems, not guaranteed, but certainly well within likelihood, not a stretch, nothing that would cause me to raise an eyebrow. So, is it legal? It is legal, Thinker Teacher. It's not recommended, but it's legal. So, you're an adult. You can make your own determinations. You don't need me telling you what to do. But insofar as I'm the person talking on the stream, I always do advise people to take chess, at least now and then, maybe always, to take chess often as an opportunity to monotask. Yeah. We won't accuse you of cheating. Honestly, you'd just be making it harder on yourself. By splitting your attention and or focus. Six years of playing chess and not taking it seriously. That's odd, Merles. Hans used to play a lot. What do you think changed? If he's not playing much, then maybe our prediction wasn't great. Your last OTP Classical games were in 2019. That's a while. That is quite a while. Hello, Panda Chess. Welcome to the show. Whether you're planning to play in the tournaments or watch the tournaments, you're very welcome. Those are serious events, Merles. What do you think is do you have any insight into what he's doing? He's playing Titled Tuesday all the time. Will I be playing? No, I will be commenting Muay Thai. That's my role in the proceedings. Exactly, Cough Bob. That's the dojo way. Well, I think Nakamura will be rated on the next FIDE list we were talking about because he's expressed several times that he wants to quit, but he only has to play one game to stay on the top 10 list, right? And I think even Norway Chess wasn't rated for the June list. It's going to be rated for the July list. Right, he's playing an online match with Vidit right now. Is it classical or rapid or what? Chess is for everyone. Round 8. It says Hans has 1 minute and 40 seconds. It's hard to see the board on their breakthrough viewing thing. That endgame.ai thing was weird, that site. Anyway, back to my thing here. When you see people should play a bunch of different openings, do you recommend just starting to play something new in some rapid games or study the theory a bit first? Good question, George. I think you can just start playing it without any studying. And I do recommend playing it for a period of time, not just changing openings every game, right? Oh, thanks, Pilar. What I recommend, George, is kind of rotating, right? Playing one opening for 3 to 6 months. Depends on how much you play, you know, how soon it makes sense to move from one opening to another. Play an opening for a while, right? A few months, bunch of games. Get some knowledge with it. And at some point move on and learn another opening. And one of the main ways you learn stuff is just by playing. And different people learn in different ways, so some people will study a little bit more, and some people will review GM games in that opening to see like model games, and other people will do some more sparring and so forth. Will ever Gotham Chess become a GM? You know, Panda Chess, to answer that question really accurately, I would probably have to look at his OTB games, which I haven't really seen. I have to know a lot more about Gotham Chess than I do. But my off-the-cuff answer, do you want an uninformed off-the-cuff answer, or should I just say I don't know enough to answer? Is that good enough for you? Let's see if the 1700 plus group has enough people. By the way, Thinker Teacher, it looks like you're in the wrong section according to your rating. It looks like you clicked on the 13 to 1700 link instead of the 1700 plus link, and you might prefer the 1700 plus section. My words are good. So my vague guess, Panda Chess Tamil, is that to become GM, he would probably have to focus on... Okay, you're where you meant to be, Thinker Teacher. That's fine. Just checking. My guess would be that he has to focus on OTB chess to become GM, and it seems to me that he would probably want to keep streaming and posting YouTube videos and stuff like that.
So that would make me sort of lean towards it's unlikely that he becomes a GM. You know, if he were trying to become world champion, I could basically just say my opinion is it's basically impossible for someone who's not completely focused on becoming world champion. Becoming GM is not as hard as becoming world champion, so it doesn't 100% require that you be 100% focused. There are geniuses who do something else and become a GM at the same time, right? Like they go through, I don't know, medical school, or they have a second career in economics or something like that. So it's not impossible for him to make GM just because he's doing other things, but it just makes it a little bit less likely, right? Tournament starts in 2 minutes, by the way, folks. Games are starting in 2 minutes. It's also probably impossible for any 29-year-old 2300 to become world champion, even if they totally focus. True. Could I become a GM if I focus and have $100,000 in the bank to spend on chess? I wouldn't really need much money in the bank to spend on chess to become a GM, Panda Chess to Meal. What I would really need is time. I would probably need at least 2 years of 50, 60 hour a week focus, which is not going to happen for me. But I do think that even at, age 30 or age 40, it's still possible for an IM to become a GM. Hey, Guirao. Yeah, Thinker Teacher has chosen to play in the other section. They have some kind of reason for it. So, yeah, last of the tournament is kicking off any moment now. Games will be starting in moments here. Coaches are expensive. Yeah, I think Panda Chess to Meal, I wouldn't really need a coach. I could just work with other IMs who are trying to become GMs and just practice together and so forth. All right, let's check out the games, yeah? I hear you, Sanyal. It does take some energy. All right, let's see if this under 1300 group got started or not. Earlier, there weren't many players waiting for the under 1300. Yeah, under 1300 got canceled, but 13 to 1700 is still there. So anyone under 1300 who joins later will be invited to play the 13 to 1700 if they want to. All right, so let's open up some games here in the under 1300 group. Oh, sorry, in the under 1700 group. Got George Hornsby playing here with Expressed Affection. Got Zach on track against Emergence. Well, hopefully you'll learn something then, Panda Chess. Have fun. Enjoy the games. And let us just take a moment here to change the command so people understand that the under 1700 section is open to them. So we'll call this under 1700. So anybody lower who comes in later can feel comfortable joining that group. All right. So this looks like a center counter. It is not. Oh, white c-pawn is gone. d5. Takes. Queen takes. Knight c3. Bishop d2. That's a careful move. White would love to just kick black around and make the big pawn center, but knight e4. Tactically, it would just lose the pawn. So white takes a moment to deal with the queen on that diagonal towards the king. Black makes space to run away with the queen like in the center counter. And now white could be playing e4, and they do. And developing pieces, and it's a pleasant opening position for emergence. Zach on track has a center counter type position, but white has a pawn on e4 instead of c2. I would say that's a big advantage for white. So even though black got the bishop outside of this pawn chain, I would guess that this position is very nice for white. That said, I have a bias in favor of occupying the center with pawns. You know, I really love to do it. And yeah, I like white's position a lot myself. As Cross says, anybody who's playing in the tournament, please mute or close the stream while you're playing. When you're between games, or when you're, whenever you're done with a game, when you're not playing, you're welcome to always come pop back in, rejoin us, say hi, talk about your games with us. And we'll be happy to discuss and share your excitement or your misery with you, depending on how the game went. Black plays knight bd7. This is a natural square for this rook, but I don't know that any of these kind of moves are big threats early on. Hey, Panda Chess. Yeah. Apparently Magnus auctioned a pair of jeans at some point, right? So he probably has to buy some new ones. Rook c1 from emergence. Okay. So to me, this move could go well with d5 at some point. It could also just be a fine square for the rook, period, kind of making it harder for black to play c5 and counter white's center because of the rook. And he gave money to charity. Nice. Love it. My first contact with Magnus was actually around jeans. It was when he was modeling for G-Star Raw, a jeans company. And they needed a partner or were looking for a partner to organize an exhibition chess event in New York as part of New York's Fashion Week. Maybe I'm calling it wrong, but that's what I remember it being called, Fashion Week. So, yeah, jeans. I don't actually wear jeans myself very often. I find them less comfortable than pants that aren't jeans. I don't know what the kind of pants I wear are, but I wear a kind of pants, and they're not jeans. I would call them normal pants, but that's probably not the technical word. All right, so Zach plays bishop e7. White has to decide, is this d5 move really amazing early on, or do we build up the position more in some way first? Do we play h3, seeing about resolving this situation, trying to grab the bishop pair? Do we put the rook on e1 or d1 before we engage in any future action? Maybe e5 even could be an interesting move, because if knight d5 you can take, the c-pawn can't take back, so black would have to do this structure here, with this nice space for white. That's playable for white as well. That's totally an option. It's not necessarily crushing, but it's definitely an option. Does Magnus look like he's rich? I don't know. Sometimes he looks pretty spiffy, and other times he looks like, you know, he rolled out of bed, pulled on some dirty jeans from yesterday, and rolled over to the chessboard. Hard to say for sure. Am I rich? Yeah. I guess so. By many measures or definitions. Oh, look at that. Emergence goes for e5. And really thought about it here. So emergence, interesting thing, like you don't want to spend hours in a 15-minute game pondering strategic questions. You really need a good chunk of your time to do some little key calculations at some point in the game. But emergence did stop here and really think about, you know, direction of the game. H3, E5, D5, which way to go. So I think emergence invested 2.5 minutes here wisely, and made a choice about the direction of the game. So that's cool. Hey, Skivix. Oh, sorry, you're probably over here, Skivix. But for me, you're over here. I have a second monitor set up now, finally, here in Hawaii. So I can look over here for the chat and over here for the chess games. Oh yeah, I do have a nice shirt. It's a Kailua shirt. These are the twin islands that you can see from the beach here. Are we going for a minority attack now, asks Oscar. So for white, that would be b4, b5. A minority attack is pretty rare when this pawn has advanced here. Normally, once you've got this strong pawn, you play around the strength of the pawn and the space you have there, right? But here, the rook opposite the queen means, and the bishops are defending these moves b4, b5. You really could consider b4, b5 here as white and try and make black unpleasant on the c file, but I'm going to guess that that's wrong, even though it looks strangely more possible than normal. Normally what you see in these positions is white wants to put this pawn here, form a head duo, crush the king's side. And black normally wants to play c5 at some point to undermine this pawn center, and if they don't have time to do it and can't do it, sometimes they play f6 just to get some breathing space on the king side before this pawn comes up, even though f6 is fighting white at their strongest point. Now the bishop here is messing with how white can handle this position. Emergence has done something. Let's see what emergence came up with. Rook e1, spending time. Castles quickly from black. Queen c2, spending lots of time from white. This move maybe threatens knight to g5. Mildly threatens. It's not like a game-winning threat, just to make some positional progress. Maybe threat. Emergence not really sure how to handle this. It's showing a little hesitancy on the clock. I wouldn't know either, and I would also be doing the same thing as emergence. Unfortunately, I'm going to say for both of us, because in a rapid game, you actually have to save that time for calculations later. You can't be thinking 3 or 4 different times about how do you develop your game. You just have to go with some instinct. Now, often, I have an instinct that doesn't work, and then I don't have a follow-up instinct. So what am I supposed to play, right? What would be the move to play on instinct? That's a confusing puzzle for many of us, right? Some people have just a supply of simple little moves. How do you turn off pre-moves on a phone? I've never played chess on a phone. So somebody help HPLAR in chat, please. How to turn off pre-moves on a phone, or even undo one that's currently active on HPLAR's phone. Yikes. Normally just clicking on the board is how you undo it in a browser on a computer. You just click somewhere else on the board, I think. Like if I had this pre-moved, I would right click maybe to undo a pre-move. Bartosz is saying press the arrow back move. Okay, Zach has stopped for the first major think of the game from Zach's side of it. So Zach's either wondering about knight g5 or wondering about some big question about what does Zach want to do. Because up to this point, yeah, after e5, Zach knew he wanted to go into the center. And of course, Black wanted to get castling done. So I can see how Zach was able to play these moves quickly up till this point. And now it's like, well, what are we doing? Are we playing f6? Are we playing c5? Where do the rooks go based on what kind of pawn moves we might want to do later? So definitely, yeah, this is where you'd expect Zach to have a think. Now, Andrew wants to join the arena. Andrew, we've got two groups today, over and under 1700, and Oscar Chess has just given you the links there. The first link is for under 1700, and the second link is for over 1700, based on chess.com rapid rating. And then we've got an interesting question on this topic from Stamen, asking for any advice or tips on balancing spending time trying to understand and recognize the opponent's ideas versus spending time coming up with your ideas, right? Like how much of your time should you spend trying to come up with a plan for you, and how much of your time should you spend figuring out what your opponent's up to and trying to deal with it? For me, Stamen, these two things are usually pretty much linked. It's kind of one and the same in terms of my time. Maybe there's a little difference to it, but when I'm thinking anything strategic, I'm kind of thinking about both at once. Oh, that would be great, Cross. That would be great. You'll only know if you would enjoy it if you try it. So we can try it. And if it's awful, you can always just bow out, you know. Just say that one of your kids is calling for you from the other room or whatever. That would be a pretty plausible out. So for me, Stamen, when I think about something strategically, you know, I kind of think about where's white strong, where's black strong, where's white weak, you know, stuff like that. And to me, that kind of informs what both sides' strategic ideas are. Where I struggle a little bit sometimes is noticing my opponent's tactical options. That has occasionally been something where I'm like just, you know, when I'm calculating, I look harder for the moves from my side than for their side. In other words, let's say I'm going down a variation, and I'm going, queen b6, knight g5, bishop g5, bishop g4, bishop d2. Say I'm going down some variation like that, and then I think, oh, it doesn't work. Then I'll look really hard for, you know, is there some other move that does make it work? You know, what if I play bishop a5? What if, like, I'll look really hard for some exceptional move to make the line work for myself. But then once I make the line work, I won't look for some exceptional move for the opponent sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I just won't push as hard to find options for them. So, depending whether you were asking about strategic ideas for yourself and your opponent or tactical ideas for yourself and your opponent, I would say that a tip for the tactical part is to sort of train yourself to look just as hard for candidate moves for both sides. For the tactical part. And for the strategic, I would say learn to see the strategic as two sides of one coin. In other words, your strength is your opponent's weakness, your opponent's strength is your weakness. You know, your good pieces are the pieces they want to trade. Your bad pieces are the ones you want to improve. Their bad pieces are the ones they probably want to improve. You know, you just start seeing it in that way, I think, right? As all these, you know, whatever imbalances you see in the position are kind of either your strengths or their strengths, and then how is each player going to try and play with them, right? Do you need to take advantage of a time lead? Do they need to slow things down to catch up because you have a time lead? Etc. How can you reach 2,000 rating? Panda Chess Tamil, you told me earlier today that you were 2,100. So to reach a 2,000 rating, just don't pay attention for a few games and your rating should go down. Emergence does go for this knight g5 move, so black's going to have to trade that knight because of the threat of queen h7 checkmate. So we get one trade there. White takes here. And then black's probably going to need to trade here because they've got two pieces hanging, but Zach's double checking it. White's going to plan to recapture. Oh, you're 1,200. All right, so either I flipped it with my eyes or it was mistyped. You're 1,200. Okay, gotcha. Can black take on d4 right now? Crazy move, Jim Inner. Yeah, very cool idea. Jim Inner asks if black can play queen d4. That's the kind of move that Emergence might not have considered. Again, because most of us don't look that hard for good moves for our opponents. And it might be a move that somehow wins a pawn. That would be incredible, leaving both black pieces hanging, but attacking both white pieces. That's an amazing move, Jim Inner. Panda Chess, how can you reach 2,000 rating? You don't want to go with theory. Okay, so 800 points to go. Can I say, Panda Chess, first, you should try to make 1,300? It's fine to have 2,000 as a goal, but maybe just focus on getting a little bit better each time. You know what I mean? Like work from 1,200 to 1,300. See what you have to do to get from 1,200 to 1,300. And once you get there, work on what you need to work on to get from 1,300 to 1,400. I would just recommend to you the Dojo training program, honestly, if you want to know how you can gain 800 rating points. I think this exclam training command will probably give you a link to it. ChessDojo.club. Not to stereotype, but the word Tamil in your name suggests you might be in India. And our training program has a reduced price in India to reflect the currency. So have a look. And that I would think that our program can definitely get you to 1,300. And once it definitely gets you to 1,300, it can probably definitely get you to 1,400. And you can come check in with me here on Twitch chat any day you like and let me know about your progress and what is or isn't working for you. And I can maybe give you some personal tips to work on it. You know? Glad to hear it, John. Rating slowly going up. Oh my goodness. Look at this, folks. Zach on track found queen takes d4. And Emergence packed it in after losing one pawn. Jim Inner and Stamen was looking at queen takes d4. So, yeah, so if white played bishop d7, then the move bishop d2 would actually be a mistake because white can play rook d1, right? But the key is black should take with the queen. And then, after something like rook here, queen here, rook here, black is up a pawn. Yeah, resigning because you lose a pawn is Panda Chess Tamil. If you put it, it should recognize that you're from India and give you a price much lower than $15 a month. $15 a month is the US price. So, yeah, definitely you have to play out that sequence as white that we just saw, folks, right? After queen takes d4, emergence should keep playing. At most, white's losing a pawn, plus black has to find the right sequence. So, maybe they thought they were losing a piece with 2 pieces attacked, but that's a matter of keeping your calm when your opponent surprises you, right? I mean, John, honestly, I wouldn't resign against a GM in a tournament. So if that tells you anything about whether a 2000 should resign or whether there's so much to learn, I mean, I think I could still draw that position because it's going to be opposite colored bishops if I play it right. Right after queen d4, if I play bishop g5, queen takes g4, I've got bishop against knight. That feels really risky. Black